Everyone knows this story from the painting. We're getting across this river. Dude.
In the election of 1800.
Jefferson is like, holy shit, I'm president.
And Lincoln is like, oh. Enter Teddy Roosevelt.
Let's do this. Hello, I'm Craig Anstead. And today, we're gonna talk about George Washington crossing the Delaware River on Christmas Day. So it's the end of the year 1776. The Continental Army is camped out on the shores of the Delaware River in Pennsylvania. George Washington is like, the Continental Army is f***ed. It seems hopeless. Across the river in Trenton, New Jersey is the Hessians. The Hessians are German mercenary soldiers for the British Empire. And they're like, hey man, we're cool. And we making the money. On December 23rd, Washington brings General Hugh Mercer, who's a Scottish general, and Captain Alexander Hamilton. George Washington's like, look, we have to attack the British on Christmas night. They're gonna be drunk, they're gonna be burping, eating shit. That's the night that the least expected. So we have to move. We gotta go. It's a surprise attack. So Mercer's like, he's a Scottish guy. He's like, we don't have munitions. I don't even know how to f***ing do it.
Think about Sean Connery.
Off. Mercer's like, well, we can't do this now. We don't have the provisions. And Alexander Hamilton's point of view is, hey, that's exactly why we need to attack, because the Hessians have infinite musicians. They have infinite munitions, and we can capture all that. So, all right, well, this is what's going down. We got 5,000 troops. We're gonna cross the river. It's like 300 yards wide.
You all right?
Yeah. We have to go full force and attack, which is fighting against the British with their hired Hessian German army shit. So the Germans, shit. All right, so it's a German Christmas, December 25th, 1776. They're all celebrating. Hey, it's celebration. Let's have sausages and sauerkraut. They're being festive, they're drinking eggnog. That's exactly what the Germans were doing. Back to the three platoons. They all set sail across the Delaware River. Mercer's, Washington, Hamilton. Mercer, it's too much snow, too much ice. We have to back off. Jesus told me so. So they back off. Hamilton's balls to the wall. We gotta get across there, man. We gotta help Hamilton. Or we gotta help Washington. Can't do it, man. It's too much snow, too much ice, it's too cold. Washington says, we're getting across this river. Dude, everyone knows this story from the painting. The painting is like a pretty picture of this. It was a lot more grimy and dirty than the painting. It's the winds, man, blowing 60, 70 miles an hour. Little tiny icebergs smashing up against these primitive boats that are made out of cheap pine wood that's been nailed together with garbage nails. Just horrible. Some of the soldiers have towels on their feet. They don't have shoes. And they're thinking, hey, man, this is Christmas. I should be eating gingerbread, man. Washington's like, hey, man, this is the birth of our nation. This is the birth of our nation. I mean, it really is. Hey, let me have a drink. They roll up upon the shore, Trenton, New Jersey. George Washington looks at the sun and he's like, hey, shit, we're late. Let's do this. Washington and his soldiers march into the fort of Trenton and sure as shit catch the entire Hessian military off guard. They start attacking the Hessians. Hey, Merry Christmas, mother. They're not met with much resistance. They're like, well, wait, we need to fight, but we're kind of drunk and we're kind of up, like mistletoe and jingle bells. So by the time the battle was over, Washington had captured over 1,000 Hessians and only 4 Continental Army troops had died. And then they look, there's all these supplies. And then in the corner, there's a pile of rum. They all start pounding rum, getting drunk. So when they took these Hessian soldiers back across the river after capturing them, a lot of them were drunk, just putting them on boats. And people are like falling off, shit-faced, trying to get it. It's just funny. So this is the first major victory for George Washington and his Continental Army. And it made an announcement to the entire world that, hey, this Continental Army is a force to be reckoned with. You can't underestimate that, man.
Today we're going to talk to you about the election of 1800. Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, they were founding fathers of America, and they were also the best of friends. Adams was like, the Constitution, you can kind of bend that how you need to bend it. We can kind of work with this. And Jefferson was always like, Constitution is the Constitution, can't with that. But they loved each other until Adams became president. And immediately they started butting heads. John Adams was like, it's illegal to talk any about the president of the United States. And if you disagree with the federal government, you. And Jefferson was like, well, this is tyranny. That's a violation of a little something called freedom of speech. It all really reaches its head on the election of 1800, where these two lifelong friends were pitted against each other. Adams is like, if you elect Thomas Jefferson, here's what you're gonna get. Murder, all the time. Everybody's gonna be murdering each other. Incest. Your wives will lose their virtue, having sex with a lot of dudes, willy-nilly. So Jefferson starts talking a lot of about John Adams. We're talking about guys who like created this country. They were really like a bunch of 8th graders. He was like, you know what? Adams has prostitutes shipped in from overseas that he bangs all the time. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. I feel like I keep seeing spit flying from my mouth.
No, I'm feeling it.
Am I spitting a lot?
I'm glad you're seeing it. Yeah.
That's good.
I'm in the splash zone.
So Jefferson went to the newspapers. He says, I want to tell you this John Adams is a hermaphrodite. He's got both man and woman sex organs. But this is like a published statement from Thomas Jefferson. Adams was like, okay, fine, you want to go that route? That's when the got really dirty. Adams says, oh, by the way, if you were thinking about voting for Jefferson, you shouldn't, because he's dead.
It's a pretty good campaign.
It's a very good campaign.
Vote for me, I'm alive.
Yeah, even if you disagree with everything I say, at the very least, I'm alive.
Would you rather be accused of having a penis and a vagina or being dead?
I think being alive with a penis and vagina would be an amazing experience. And you're alive. Jefferson calls upon a hatchet man, James Callender, to publish newspaper articles about Adams. Adams... What was I gonna say here? Oh yeah, and he's gonna go to war with the French. That's what was published in the newspapers, and it's a lie. It's not true at all. America was like, I don't want to go to war with the French. That sounds terrible. And they elect Jefferson into office. Jefferson wins. Adams is like, you want to go with this loser? Fine. But before I leave, I'm going to appoint all of these people who violently oppose everything Jefferson stands for. And then he's like, I hope you like all these assholes. So, cut to 4 years down the line, and Jefferson's daughter dies. And Abigail Adams is like, look, I know we've had our differences with Jefferson, but I should pop him off a letter. She's like, look, I'm really, really sorry about your daughter, and it sucks that she is dead. Jefferson gets this letter, and he's like, I want to thank you so much for being so considerate about the death of my daughter. But while I've got your attention, I also want to tell you, you and your husband for being such assholes who up my presidency. This is how immature these great men of American history were. He can't even that should have been 2 separate letters. She's like, John, you know what? We're done with Thomas Jefferson. He's an ass. I tried to make it work with this guy, but him. So these two don't speak for a decade. Eventually, Benjamin Rush, who was another founding father, was like, look, John Adams, Johnny, I love you two guys. Why aren't you speaking anymore? Why can't we all be friends like we used to back in those glory days, those 1776 days that were so magical? And John Adams was like, look, I love Tommy Jeffs. I'm a big fan. I'll pop him off a letter. It's very general. It's like, hey, how you doing? I miss you. I hope you're all right. How's things going? Jefferson gets the letter. He's like, Adams, Johnny Ads. Good to hear from you, buddy. It's been 10 years. How's life? And then the letters start flowing, and before you know it, they start to connect on certain things. They start to connect on, I'm a little concerned about slavery. Thomas Jefferson was like, I'm anti-slavery, but I do have hundreds of slaves. What am I talking about?
Keep going. You got it.
It's weird how quickly alcohol makes you not realize what you said at all. So, by the end of their life, these two have exchanged 158 letters, and they're best friends again. Then it's 1826. John Adams is on his deathbed, and his last words are, independence forever, and also, Thomas Jefferson survives, because that guy's f***ing awesome. Little did he know that just a few hours prior, miles and miles away, Thomas Jefferson had also died. That day was July 4th, the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, which is crazy.
That's true friendship.
True friendship.
Cheers. To friendship. You're my best friend.
We barely know each other. Okay.
Oh, we're best friends.
Hello. Today we're going to talk about John Wilkes Booth and his brother Edwin Booth, the Booth brothers. Edwin Booth and John Wilkes Booth were born to a British actor named Junius Brutus Booth. Edwin is a favorite of their dad. Junius was so mean, he wouldn't even let John Wilkes into photographs with him. John Wilkes, stay back, man. Stay away, because you're not cool. Stop. You're kind of weird. You're weirding everybody out. Just back away. And he became sad, which establishes their rivalry. In 1858, John Wilkes and Edwin Booth were the most famous actors in the world. Performance-wise, everyone loved Edwin Booth. John Wilkes Booth, he was untrained. He would knock sets down. He was so violent. So when the Civil War broke out, John Wilkes Booth is like, Lincoln, what does it all mean? What is he talking about? Slavery. I don't even get it. That was the moment his political aspirations overtook artistic aspirations. However, Abraham Lincoln was requesting Edwin perform Shakespeare at government functions. Am I f***ing it up, guys? What's up, guys? Why is it f***ing it up? Okay. All right. At the Ford's Theater, when John Wilkes Booth was gesticulating, Abraham Lincoln's sister-in-law is like, I think he's pointing at you, Abraham. And Abraham Lincoln is like, it does seem like he's pointing at me. This is a little weird. He should, not be pointing at me during this particular line because it's a sort of aggressive. In November 1864, Edwin Booth is like, hey, I want to get to know you better. We've had some hard times. Let's do a play together again. For one performance only, Julius Caesar. John Wilkes' favorite role was Brutus, the man that executes a tyrant. And Edwin Booth is like, I get to play Brutus. For one performance only, in the production of Julius Caesar, Edwin said, Sic semper tyrannis, and everyone loves it. Critics said it was the most important show of all time. So John Wilkes Booth started getting involved with the secret Confederate society and had masterminded a plan to kidnap Lincoln. So John Wilkes Booth went to the Ford's Theater to pick up his mail, and John Ford's brother is like, hey, are you gonna come see our American cousin tonight? Our American cousin? You guys doing our American cousin tonight? Yeah. Abraham Lincoln's gonna be here. You should come. And John Wilkes Booth is like, oh, what? Abraham Lincoln's gonna be at the theater tonight? Oh my God. I'm gonna change my plan from kidnapping him to assassinating. So Abraham Lincoln's at the play Our American Cousin with his wife, Mary Todd. It's beautiful. Everything's going perfectly. Until John Wilkes Booth comes into their box. What? Where are we? John Wilkes Booth comes into their box and shoots Lincoln in the head. After he shot Lincoln, he jumped from the balcony, breaking his ankle. I'm hurting.
Really?
And raising his knife in the air, he said, T pluribus unum. I don't remember what. I can't remember what it is. I wish I remember. Wait. Sic terramus tempus. No more tyranny. You know, basically. That's John Wilkes Booth. And he's saying a line from Julius Caesar. And he's like, this is f***ing perfect. And everybody gets what I'm doing right now. After Abraham Lincoln's assassination, Edwin Booth decides to write a letter to America saying, I'm retiring from acting. As a penance for what my brother did, his horrifying act, I'm done. 5 months after Abraham Lincoln is buried, Edwin Booth is like, I'm back. Everybody relax. I'm doing Our American Cousin. I know that's the one that my brother assassinated Abraham Lincoln during, but that's what I'm gonna do. And everyone loves it. And he's back because he's kind of egotistical. No one ever talks about Edwin Booth.
I'm looking at you.
Do you guys want me to put a pizza in the oven?
Hello, I'm Katie Nolan, and today I'm going to tell you about how Teddy Roosevelt saved the sport of football. I put the word sport in case people didn't know.
They still might think it's soccer, but we'll clear that up.
Them if that's what they think. Our story begins late 1890s when football was just a college game and there was no forward passing, just dudes who would smash their bodies into each other's bodies. And then so in 1894, there was this annual game between Harvard and Yale that was so violent, it was called Bloodbath at Hampden Park because it was just massacre. 7 people were carted off the field with dying injuries. Yale won the game, and so they were so excited in their win, they just started punching people. They were like, oh my God, we won that game. Like, it was really hard to watch, but we crushed them, literally, and also what? What's the opposite of literally?
Figuratively?
Thank you. Literally and figuratively, we crushed those guys. The Harvard fans were like, I want to go home and cry and also invent Facebook. And that game was sort of the catalyst for people realizing, hey, maybe football is like not good because people are dying in a large sum every year. So enter Teddy Roosevelt, who was a huge football fan. Like, he loved anything brutally manly. So football to Teddy was like what America was about. And so when they banned that game between Harvard and Yale, he was like, excuse me, no, bring that game back. We love that game. It means a lot to us as people. It's been 2 years. I can't live without it anymore, which is how I felt about sex in college. So, like, Teddy Roosevelt's son, Theodore Roosevelt Jr., joins the Harvard freshman football team. His first game, the other team targeted him because he's the president's son, and nose broken, like right away. Put a huge gash on his face. So Teddy Roosevelt decided that football is fantastic, but maybe a little bit too violent. Like, maybe we could calm it down. And, you know, in his spare time, he was president. So he ended the Russo-Japanese War, and then was like, I'm gonna save football. So, anyway, what was I talking about?
Teddy Roosevelt?
So Teddy Roosevelt called this meeting with the heads of the college football powerhouses, and he was like, look, guys, football, pretty violent, right? Like, love the sport, doing a great job. Let's not kill so many people. And so the head coach of Yale, Walter Camp, who's known as the father of American football, was like, don't talk about my sport that way. I made this sport, and we're not gonna change it. Like, football is football, suck it, bro. And so the president was like, well, this guy just told me to suck it, bro. So I think the meeting is adjourned. I think the meeting is adjourned. And so they didn't come to any sort of agreement. And at the end of that season, the newsboys were like, extra, extra, read all about it. 18 deaths. I was gonna say serious deaths. There are deaths that are like, it's kind of funny. 18 deaths and 159 fatalities. Shit. Fatalities means deaths. 18 deaths and 159 super serious injuries from football happening now. Exclamation point, end quote. Read about it, or don't. So Teddy invited everybody back, and he's like, hey all this stuff just happened. Walter Camp, I see you raising your hand. I don't acknowledge you. We have to change your sport. I get that it's your baby, but sometimes your baby sucks. If you give birth to a baby and you're like, do whatever the you want, it's gonna punch people and people are gonna die. Your baby needs to be raised properly in a decent home. And the decent home is, let's make some new rules. So, like, what if, crazy thought, what if we make first down instead of 5 yards, make it 10? And then he was like, what if you took a ball and you threw it instead of only just being able to shove into each other to move down the field? Wouldn't that be wild? And people were like, wait, you wanna throw a ball? Like, yeah, that's why balls were invented, to be thrown. Walter Camp was like, okay, fine. And so, basically, after that meeting, there was like a national standard for what football was, and it was great. And it was all great because of Teddy Roosevelt. And like, nobody knows that. They just think Teddy Roosevelt, oh, president. Or actually nowadays they go, Teddy Roosevelt, oh, you mean Franklin? Because we're young and dumb and nobody reads a goddamn book anymore.
Cheers.